Now, Renee, thank you for joining me. For 15 years now, our next speaker, Renee, has been IT project manager in the BMW Group Central IT for vehicle development in an international environment. In the past, he was responsible for projects in Germany, in the United States, in China, in the UK, and even more countries. His focus is always to implement complex IT projects in a multicultural environment with distributed teams and partners all over the world. And based on these experiences, he has been representing BMW at international events and conferences for several years now. Currently, he is responsible for IT side development of the vehicle simulation at their joint venture BMW Brilliance Automotive BAA located in China. In this presentation, he will now be showing us how this setup was and is done. And since this is a very complex subject, ladies and gentlemen, Renee will probably only be able to graze the surface, to be exact, but we are definitely still looking forward to that, to some very interesting 25 minutes coming up. The following presentation is titled RnD China.NEXT, International Distributed Vehicle Simulation Across Company Boundaries. And I have been taking my time because it is only now 1:30, and I wanted to make sure that everyone who wanted to see your presentation was on time and wouldn't miss out. But now it's 1:30, and I think we can start, Renee.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you for your patience.
Imagine you have to rebuild a direct copy of your home in a foreign country. Where would you start? Hello, as Jasmine mentioned, my name is RnD China, and today I want to talk to you about the official name, RnD China.NEXT Simulation Project of the BMW Group. As Jasmine mentioned as well, I'm a project lead since 15 years at BMW, and currently I'm the IT responsible for the build-up of simulation at our Chinese joint venture BMW Brilliance Automotive called BBA in Shenyang in China. It's the very northeast of China, nothing from the North Korean border. In specific, I want to explain what we did, why we did, and how we did, and what have we achieved, and about our next steps. So first of all, today you heard a lot about simulation, virtual vehicle development, or virtual product development, and virtual prototypes. So that's why I concentrate and focus on the project itself, and not on the simulation process. So back to the project. Why did we do that? So the fundamental challenge here is, if you want to sell cars in China, you have to develop them there. Now BMW has commissioned BBA, the joint venture, to develop a vehicle for the Chinese market. For this, however, BBA needs its own development on-site, and this also includes parts of the simulation in the context of the virtual vehicle development. For example, crash simulation. That's the most public example for that. The task was therefore to set up an international distributed vehicle development that would generate synergies in both countries. That's the order we received from the board of directors. Sounds easy, right? I can tell you it wasn't that easy. On the one hand, everything was already there in Germany or in Europe, while we had to start from scratch in China. Here it's important to know how the contracts between BMW and BBA looks like. BMW commissions BBA to take over responsibility for development for a vehicle from a certain point of time. This includes the vehicle simulation. BBA in turn instructs BMW to help to set up the simulation with all the infrastructure, knowledge, software, licenses, whatever it is needed. So now we have a double supplier-customer relationship here. And again, at BBA, there was no simulation before. No infrastructure, no skills, nothing. So, how did we proceed? We initially faced a great many challenges. This have essentially resulted from the fact that vehicle development, including simulation at BMW in Germany and Europe, has grown organically over several decades. In Germany, we have very sophisticated vehicle development and therefore simulation. This has led to an extremely high level of complexity. For example, there was no central point of contact for certain topics, especially on business side, who could hand us instruction for use for overall simulation procedure. Getting the information I needed in my project was like a puzzle. As another example we were faced was the challenge of procuring suitable and congruent hardware and software and making it available to our Chinese colleagues or helping with procurement. Think about import restrictions between US and China in that context. In this context, for example, a pretty funny story was when the first set of data had to transfer to Shenyang. It was about 6 terabytes of data just as a first set. Due to the high latency of the lease line between BMW and BBA, there was no faster way to get the data to China than to write it on an encrypted hard drive and to send someone with the hard drive to Shenyang on the plane. Hard job, okay, I did it by myself. It was interesting whether the Chinese custom interfere with the hard drive, especially because it's encrypted. But fortunately, nobody cared. So step by step, we learned a lot. We learned a lot and still learn a lot in that project. Another challenge arose from the legal regulations, which are structured very differently in China than in Germany. Certain dates have to go to China in order to be used for the simulation. If these data are in use at BBA and edited and changed by Chinese colleagues, then these data are no longer allowed to leave China easily. Not impossible, but a little bit complicated, but solvable. A similar question the other way around was whether and how we can actually transport the data such as surname, first name, and email address of our German colleagues that are important for the simulation data so that BBA employees know who the contact person in Munich is, to China at all. This leads to a specific question in terms of the GDPR of the EU. So one more legal thing. A number of contacts were then necessary between the business departments, central IT, and data protection department, as well as the BMW lawyers, in order to clarify the general conditions, which as there was complete confusion in the business department about that, and there was no central business project lead. So everything had to be clarified from the IT project, even if these are no IT questions. As you can imagine, there were also some cultural differences that made working together more complicated, especially in the early stages, in the initial stages. For non-Germans, sometimes it's difficult to work with Germans and vice versa. We Germans tend to overanalyze things, while the Chinese sometimes take certain things for granted and do not necessarily question them. This has led to the fact that the German mentality has to deal with certain issues. Some Chinese colleagues have completely switched off. And then, when it comes to the fact that the people of BBA should analyze something themselves and implement it, sometimes strange results came out. Strange results in a point of view from a German. But this was also due to the fact that too little guidance came from the German side to offer orientation in the beginning. But that's how we all learned to be better with one another. The other example is the tendency of Germans to say directly and clearly what's possible, what is not, and when someone has screwed up something, even if it's intended as constructive criticism. A bad idea in Asian cultures. One or the other time, one or the other German colleague has ensured that, from the point of view of a Chinese, the affected BBA employee has lost face, which then led to an advertisement being extremely protracted, and almost the project plan has endangered. As a moderator, I and my project lead counterpart at BBA then had to ensure relaxation. In the end, the frequent presence of me and my team ensured that trust was built and that we now know each other very well and no one longer take everything literally. In 2019, I spent over 100 days in China. Finally, we did it after all. We made it. The entire infrastructure was built up in China. The high-performance computing cluster, the HPC, the CA workstations, the software, the data supply, everything was successfully put in operation, including many new employees. We ramped up the tool chains for Crash, CFD, MBS, NVH, data supply, software sync, and so on. And we successfully tested it end-to-end with high-load tests and all tests that were needed. The first part of the vehicle development is done by BMW until a specific milestone, and will then hand it over to BBA. From that milestone on, BBA is taking responsibility for the vehicle project and will bring it into start of production and mass production. We saw that it's not enough to throw the vehicle project over the fence and wait for a miracle to finish the project. Continuous collaboration between the two companies, BBA and BMW, is needed to fulfill all requirements of an entire vehicle project. For that, we invented the agile collaboration model. Through the joint development of an agile collaboration model that is currently getting more and more up and running, we will also be able to master the cultural challenge and the business needs. Now you can see the result of the collab model here on a high level. If you like to find out more, please ask me afterwards or send me an email. You can see that on the very last slide. The core of the collaboration model is that both BMW and BBA work according to the agile process model. It's important to note that around 50% of the development in the project is done on each side and must be implemented on BBA side. That must be brought together in the result, and that is the new dimension here for an IT project. That includes everything. Working on user stories or epics, working on common build chains, working on fully automated testings, everything that's needed on an IT side. The IT project develops a cross-company result, the simulation build-up, which should later serve the company's core skills in day-to-day business. In the meantime, both vehicle models that we were supposed to develop and to simulate there at BBA have started successfully, and it's going very, very successfully. Both teams on BBA side and BMW side did a great job based on that we know each other very well. We have reached the target milestones exactly, and the simulation work could be started on schedule, exactly on day, despite Corona. So, what are the next steps here? Since we have been so successful, 2 more models will be added to the next planned models. And these 2 models are handed over to BBA very, very ad hoc, so that the preparations for the start must be made very quickly, since BBA's capacities must be expanded for that, and still in 2020, this year. And that's why we will soon extend the existing HPC cluster and the BBA simulation capacities by 100% to start with the extended simulation work beginning in 2021, so January the 1st. Ultimately, we now have a better distribution of the simulation workload in China and Germany, and we act in China and Germany now as one team for one goal. And at the same time, we created new jobs and infrastructure in China, and we are very proud about that. When I was planning this lecture, I was considering which technical implementations I would describe. I came to the conviction that the biggest challenge was not a technical solution, but the cross-company and intercultural cooperation. That's the reason during the whole of my lecture I described an IT project on a high level, but hardly talked about technical content. Technology is important, no question about that. Anyone can search on Google how to solve technical problems and hire experts. That's nothing new to you all. The most important thing in that project, however, is the cooperation, the culture, the trust, and understanding for one another. When Corona suddenly appeared, a shutdown was ordered in China within few days, something that has never happened before in history. Instantly, all of our Chinese colleagues were in the home office. In addition to solving technical problems in these contexts, e.g. remote access to the HPC cluster and the Linux workstations, I saw that the trust that we had built up over the last year counted. We were able to work together perfectly via Skype and things like that, and we could trust each other. This would never have worked without the intensive travel activities in 2019 and to meet each other physically. So business trips cannot be completely replaced by video conferencing. There is no substitute for direct and personal contact. And so at the end, we are stronger together. In the end, away from all the technical solutions and internet and virtualization and simulation and things like that, the people counts, and yeah, we are all human beings. So I was a lot faster than expected. And as I mentioned before, if you want to know more about that, you can write me an email. It's quite easy, rene@bmw.de. Don't hesitate to ask me. Thank you.
Rene, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Rene. And of course, if there's anything that you come up with after the slot has closed, then you have the address or had the address right here. I think it's quite easy to remember. So Rene, we did, though, receive a number of questions that we would like to get to now. And as you said, you left us a lot of time, so that's fantastic. Now, why don't we start off and just take it from the top once more?
Yeah.
I would like to know more about your agile approach. Did you stick to a certain framework? Kai Mecke says.
Yeah, okay, good question. I expected a question like that.
Did you?
yeah, it's normally. So when I talk about the agile collaboration model, then I'm not talking about a model that, an agile model that we invented for this project. So we have started the agile transformation at the whole company, BMW, 2 or 3 years ago. And no, we didn't choose a certain framework like Scrum or Less or whatever. We investigated which models are there, and then we picked out the cherries of all the frameworks, and we put it together so that it fits perfectly to the company. So you always have to think about the existing structure of your company. You cannot break everything into pieces and to put it in a different way together. That does not work. And especially not in a big company like BMW and existing more than 100 years. So we have existing structures, and then we figured out how can we transform the company from a waterfall-oriented approach in the past into an agile world in the future. And yes, we have a combination of, if you dig into it's called the agile working model at BMW. If you dig into it, and then you can see, you will find things from Scrum, from Less, from Safe, or some people would remember to the Spotify approach, if you could dig into that. So no, it's not a specific framework. We cherry-picked from all the frameworks and put it together so that it fits as perfect as possible to our company.
So numerous frameworks for a company that has a very long structure or a very traditional structure.
We invented our own framework. We call it the agile working model.
Exactly, and that is what we have been learning about. Now, Renee, you were speaking about the importance of physical presence, and I'm sure that that's a tremendous challenge in times of Corona, of course.
Of course, yeah.
And this next question, I think, is also very interesting. That goes very well with that. How many exchanges did you organize between Munich, yes, you see them here as well. Munich-based experts moving to China for a while, and vice versa, Chinese experts or expats coming to Munich to foster the mutual business and technology understanding.
Yeah.
Can you actually put a number on that, or what is your approach?
Oh, we have several expats from Munich in Shenyang. So
Also currently?
Yeah, of course,
Yes.
of course. Yeah, as expats, they are there for 3 to 7 years.
Right.
Depends on. Yeah, depends. And for example, one of our most important experts for the simulation process and simulation steering, we sent him to Shenyang beginning of this year, right before Corona appeared. So, and for BMW is. It's a hard challenge to have him not longer there, but for me as a project lead for that project, it's perfect because you have the most experienced person for simulation ramp up there, and it helps me a lot. Yeah, and in IT we have how many? I would say a dozen expats
so
there, and in simulation much more.
I see.
Yeah, in the business departments, and the other way around, we have expats as well, but not that big number. Because there are much more restrictions coming the other way around, and but yes, we have expats from China in Munich. Good question. I don't know exactly, but I would say less than 10.
Less than 10. Okay.
But before before Corona, we had an extensive travel activities in both directions. So more or less all the people from IT and business departments stayed in Munich for several weeks for a knowledge transfer on site in Munich.
And so they were going back and forth.
Yeah, as a multiplicator of the knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have those who are there permanently for 3 to 7 years, as you say.
Yeah. And then, before Corona, I and my team, we went to Shenyang approximately every 6 weeks, then for 2 weeks.
Would there be even more exchange if the political situation was perhaps different, or is that not safe to say? Just curiosity.
No, at the moment, the issue is Corona, not the political situation.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Renee. Now, next question comes from Makoto. I think simulation data contains many confidential topics. How do you take care of confidential problems between Germany or the German headquarter and China?
Yes, good question. So we have implemented in each, we need to transport a lot of data to there, of course. Simulation without data is nothing. So we need simulation models, we need metadata, we need functional data from the functional data management process, and we need, for the simulation, we need business department specific tools maintained by the business departments, and we need to transfer that to Shenyang. So, and yes, we need to care about the confidentiality. In each application where data are put it out and to send over to Shenyang, to BBA, by our automated data transfer platforms. In all these applications, we created a 4I principle mechanism to ensure the need to know principle and to care about the intellectual property. So if someone wants to send out data from that, you say, okay, I want to flag it as BBA relevant, let's name it like that. And then a different person needs to align that and to prove that, okay, yeah, it's relevant. And both people take care about that the data is relevant for that.
So this is an automated safety process.
Yes. So you can only export data to China if this 4I principle is fulfilled, and then the rest is done automatically.
Okay, which ensures safety and it's a sort of backup system.
Encrypted and things like that, on just internal data pipelines and things like that.
All right. Yeah. Renee, thank you very much. Last question we have right now is, there's another one. We'll take the last one first, though, because we already begun. Did you apply the concept of digital factoring and/or the digital twin in your collaboration model? Sorry.
Not yet. not yet. The digital twin is not part of what we deliver in that project. So, but the collaboration model is implemented so that you can use it for each collaboration. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter what you do, yeah. But it have to be an agile project or product. It have to be something agile, not waterfall, whatever. Mm-hmm. And step by step, we change our vehicle development to an agile life cycle as well. So we more and more we don't differentiate between IT and business. It comes more and more together, so that we more and more talk about biz DevOps.
Okay.
Yeah, and if someone needs to have an implementation or whatever for the digital twin, yes, then we can do that with that collaboration model as well. Yeah.
All right. So it's
and the simulation work itself, how the business people work together with their when they share simulation results in Munich and in Shenyang, then they do it in the same way. And it's not really a digital twin, but we're on a good way for that. In other areas, we already have the digital twin, but not yet in that project.
But you're on your way to making that possible, it seems.
If needed.
If
yes.
needed, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, open for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, René. Then let's take our last question. How can I look keynotes that I missed? Okay, so that's a general question for Ulrich. Keynotes you missed, you can catch on our YouTube channel, on the YouTube channel of the ProStep IVIP Association. We're going to be uploading everything in just a few days' time. So keep checking the channel in just a couple, maybe 2 to 3 days, and then you will have all the keynotes there in case you missed out on anything. Everything will be documented today. All right, René, do you have any more closing words? Other than that, we can say goodbye with just a couple minutes in advance.
If you have the chance to go to China and to join and to enjoy the culture and the country, don't hesitate, just do it.
That is very clear and very simple. Thank you so much, René, and everyone have fun doing so. If you listen to René. René, all the best to you, and we look forward to seeing you next year. May 5th, May 6th?
Why not?
Okay, yes. I hope so. All right, take care. All the best.
You're welcome.